Welcome back, Sebastian here. Time for my review of the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix, and what a fantastic race that was. A lot of uncertainty throughout the whole race, who would win. Mixture of different strategies, and we saw definitely quite a surprise result at the end of the day. So to start with Leclerc on pole, Perez P2, Verstappen, who of course had set the fastest time in qualifying yesterday, 10-place grid penalty. Would have been, I think, this weekend, the result today would have looked very, very different without that penalty, though. Of course, yeah, Verstappen starting P11. Hamilton, really good start, overtakes Perez into turn 1 to move up to P2. Verstappen also overtakes Albon at the bus stop chicane for P9 on that opening lap. Lap 2, Verstappen overtakes Alonso for P8. Norris, a really poor start. He was down to P7 from, I believe, a qualifying position of starting grid position of P4. Lap 3, Hamilton, good pace early on within DRS range of Leclerc, and quickly dispatches him into the Lecombe to take the lead of the Grand Prix. Zhou can't catch a break. He's going very slow on track, says he's losing power, but then he was able to continue a bit later on. Lap 5, Piastri tries to overtake Perez at Lecombe, but not really able to do so. And it really felt like at this point that most of the top 8 were in a DRS train, not really able to make a move because the car they were trying to overtake was also in a DRS train. So yeah, that's something that you generally see a lot more in F2, F3, but that's kind of what we saw at the beginning of today's race. Lap 7, Zhou, I guess whatever issue it was, came back and he ended up retiring early from this Grand Prix in the pit lane. Lap 8, Hulkenberg starts the pit cycle, pitting for hard tires. Lap 9, Ricciardo and both Williams pit as well, and Hulkenberg ends up ahead of Sargent, so wasn't able to get ahead of the other Williams of Albon, not able to get ahead of the RB of Ricciardo. Lap 11, Russell and Verstappen both pit. They were the first leaders to pit. Thought that was a good strategy, especially on Verstappen's part, as we know that, as we thought that in clean air at least, the Verstappen would have really good pace, and it really seemed that clean air was super important in today's Grand Prix, and that would later turn out to be the case. Lap 12, Hamilton, Perez, Piastri all pit. Russell overtakes Piastri for virtual P4 as well. Lap 12, Leclerc pits, comes out ahead of the Perez group, and then Perez, leading that group, was overtaken by Piastri for virtual P3 at Lecombe. Lap 14, Norris undercut by 4 seconds if he pitted now. Norris pits and he comes out behind Verstappen. Lap 16, Sainz has a bit of a moment at Blanchiment, but able to continue. I think it was a brief yellow flag, and yeah, that was it. Lap 20, Russell still within DRS range of Perez, but Verstappen was not within DRS range of him. So Verstappen struggling a bit to follow some of the cars ahead of him. Sainz trying to do a one-stop, but I guess at the end of the day decides not to, and he pits right afterwards. Lap 21, yeah, I guess that would have been for his first stop as well. He obviously started on hard tires, switching to the mediums, but realistically, if you're going to do that, you would need to do at least 25 laps minimum, realistically. Lap 21, Russell overtakes Perez for P4 at Lecombe, and then lap 22, Perez pits. Perez really struggled on that second stint. He pitted lap 12 for that stint, and then came out and pitted lap 22. So only 10 laps on the hard tires. Yeah, really poor stint from Perez, and I think it really had a big impact on the end result for today's race. Perez comes on the radio saying, "We are very slow on the straights," so I wrote too much downforce maybe. That would explain why they were so much stronger in the rain yesterday, as generally there's a pretty strong correlation between high downforce and doing well in wet conditions. Lap 24, Norris locks up at the bus stop chicane, no harm done, just kind of skips the last corner though, but track limit's not a massive story today, so it wasn't a big deal. Albon pits as well, and he comes out behind Ricciardo. Lap 26, Leclerc pits, and he is 5 seconds ahead of Perez. So Perez struggling quite a bit in that, and not really able to kind of undertake or undercut or close that gap to Perez. Hamilton pits as well, and he also comes out in front of Leclerc. Lap 28, Piastri, fastest lap, 0.6 seconds faster than Russell on the last lap. And he actually comes over the radio and says, "Clean air is king." And so I wrote, dirty air seems like it was really being an issue, preventing cars that were generally much quicker from being able to move. And that's kind of been the story of these new regulations 3 years in. 2022, overtaking was much easier, dirty air a lot less of an issue, but as these regulations have developed, as engineers have found solutions to kind of loopholes within the regulations, unfortunately dirty air is becoming more of an issue again. Science pits as well, so there goes the end of that one-stop strategy. Verstappen also pits as well on that's lap 29. So Verstappen had pitted previously lap 11, so that's 18 laps on those tires, so 8 laps more than Perez managed on the same set of tires. So again, Perez really struggling that second stint. Piastri, best pace in the race at this point in clean air, and I thought lap 29, with 15 laps to go, I thought he was in a great position at this point in the race. 13-second gap to Hamilton, 18-second pit loss, comes out 5 seconds behind Hamilton. Perhaps he can make something of it. Perhaps challenge him for the win at that point is what I was thinking. Lap 30, Verstappen overtakes Perez for P5 at Pouan. Not sure if team orders were used there because Perez didn't really bother to defend it that hard. Piastri then comes in for his pit stop, bit of a slower stop, 4.4 seconds. He basically looks like he locked up actually entering his box. So similar to the F2 race earlier today with Antonelli, Piastri just kind of goes a little bit too far, and then it means everyone has to move the wheel slightly, and of course that means everything's just a little bit slower. So that definitely cost him a couple seconds there. Lap 31, Norris overtakes Perez for P6 at Le Combe, and Russell at this point decides he's going to go on a Hail Mary strategy. He's the only leader who has not pitted a second time, and he decides, I'm going to do a one-stop strategy and I'm going to make this work. And he seemed quite confident on the radio that he was going to be able to make this work. And we've seen this a couple times with Russell at Mercedes, where he's kind of a little bit out of position, a little bit behind Hamilton, and he just decides, I'm going to try to make a one-stop strategy work just for the hell of it. So let's see. Yeah, so at this point I started keeping track of the gap between Russell and Hamilton, because Russell at this point leading the race, Hamilton P2, charging on up to his teammate on fresher tires. Lap 33, when this whole strategy kind of came to light, the gap 6.1 seconds. So he's basically, Hamilton has to catch him at just over half a second a lap to the end of the race to be able to make this work. Lap 35, Piastri not able to overtake Leclerc at Le Combe, but able to do so the next lap, and that's for P3. Then we get to lap 37, Ricciardo overtakes Stroll for P10, and the gap, so in those intervening laps, lap 35, the gap between Russell and Hamilton, 5.2 seconds, lap 37, the gap, 3.7 seconds. Lap 39, Sainz overtakes Perez for P7, so Perez's day just gets even worse after starting on the front row, and that was at Le Combe, of course. Lap 39, gap between Russell and Hamilton, 1.9 seconds. Lap 42, Ocon overtakes Ricciardo for P10, so really good move there for Ocon. He moves himself up into a points-paying position. But just before that, lap 41, again, I'm sorry I'm going back and forth, but it's just how it's written on the board. Russell Hamilton gap was 0.6 seconds, and this was when he got within DRS range, and I honestly thought, with DRS, with much fresher tires, he should be able to just sail past Russell, especially given how good that the Mercedes have looked in a straight line relative to some of the other cars like the McLaren, the Red Bull, which have generally looked a little bit weaker in a straight line. Turns out that's not what we get. Hamilton, just for whatever reason, not able to get past lap 43, a couple laps left in the race, the gap still 0.6 seconds. And what it seems like what was happening was that Russell was really focusing on the exit of turn 1 La Source and just making sure he could carry enough momentum all the way down to Le Combe, 2.2 kilometers later, and then just basically using as little tire as possible for the rest of the lap. Piastri, though, rapidly catching behind. At this point, 2.5 seconds behind. Lap 43, Hamilton not passed yet. And at this point, this is where it starts that Russell can actually do this. He can win this race on a one-stop strategy. Perez pits, decides to go for fastest lap. He gets fastest lap, so I guess he gets an extra point for his troubles. I'm not sure if that's going to save his seat at Red Bull. I guess we'll find out pretty soon. Final lap though, Russell again stays ahead. Hamilton not able to get past. Clearly not a very happy camper over the radio or after the race as well. But Russell takes the checkered flag, somehow makes that one-stop strategy work out of absolutely nowhere. I think, coming in even halfway through this race, if you had to pick a winner, it would have been Hamilton, or it would have been Piastri if he was able to make some magic work in clean air with fresher tires. Russell kind of came out of nowhere, the only driver in the top 8 to make a one-stop strategy work. Alonso also made that one-stopper work to finish 9th. Didn't really do much given he was going to probably finish 9th if he did a more conservative strategy anyway. And then Stroll as well, also one-stopper, finished 12th. So I guess something of a recovery for Stroll as well. And then everyone else 2 stops or more. So yeah, really, really unexpected result of the Grand Prix. Of course, that makes it all the more enjoyable. Joining Russell on the podium, of course, his teammate Hamilton and Oscar Piastri as well. So that's an all Mercedes engined podium. Definitely shades of 2014 for those who remember. 4th Leclerc, 5th Verstappen, definitely a trying afternoon. What would have been without that grid penalty, we'll never know. I think if he had started from the front, definitely could have won the Grand Prix. 6th Norris, definitely a tricky one for him. 7th Sainz, 8th Perez, 9th Alonso, 10th Ocon. Really good Grand Prix weekend as a whole for him. Of course, got into Q3 yesterday, and then again bringing some points home on a power track in a very underpowered Alpine. 11th Ricciardo, 12th Stroll, 13th Albon, 14th Gasly, 15th Magnussen, 16th Bottas, 17th Tsunoda, 18th Sargent, 19th Hulkenberg, and your 1 DNF is Zhou Guanyu. Standings coming out of Belgium into the summer break. Verstappen, I guess, despite finishing 5th, still extends his lead. 275 points ahead of Norris on 197. So that's a 78-point lead in the championship there. Leclerc 3rd, 174. Piastri moves up to 4th, 164 for him, ahead of Sainz on 160. 6th is Hamilton, 143. 7th Russell, 141. Perez 8th and 129. 9th Alonso, 47. 10th Stroll, 24. 11th Hulkenberg, 22. 12th also Tsunoda on 22. 13th Ricciardo on 11. 14th Bergman on 6. He almost has more points in F1 than he does in F2 at this point. I think if he did points per race, he probably would. 15th Gasly for 6 points. 16th Magnussen 5. 17th Albon 4. 18th Ocon also 4. Moves up there, and then Zhou, Sargent, Bottas all on 0 points. So there you go. There's my review of the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix. Pretty exciting Grand Prix. And now, unfortunately, we have to wait 4 weeks until the Dutch Grand Prix. So I guess, yeah, summer break it is. I'll be doing my mid-season reviews of each of the 10 teams. Probably also do a couple other interesting videos in the meantime as well. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.